Hello, everybody. I'm a practicing therapist and I'm also a doctoral student of psychology. Today, we're going to go over some of the characteristics and traits to know that an avoidant will risk all of their fears, their attachment barriers, everything that they've been protecting themselves for this specific person, okay? So, a lot of people will say that avoidants don't do this. This is not true. And I can understand that, but this is true. I work with a lot of avoidants. They do tend to be willing to adjust and change all the things that they were so afraid of at first. Like they will risk everything, not everything like in a bad way. I'm saying they'll risk all their fears they've ever had because this very specific person was able to bypass those barriers, but it doesn't happen overnight. And so I'm going to talk about it. We're going to break it up in a couple ways so that you understand what I'm talking about, because I understand that first section was a little confusing. And so we're going to do it like this. We're going to talk about the barrier that the avoidant feels, and then I'm going to talk about the person who can bypass that fear. And we're going to keep going through it one by one, okay? Does that make sense? Okay, so the very first barrier that we will cover is suffocation and the engulfing feeling of relationships, okay? So that's the first barrier, right? So avoidants tend to feel suffocated and overwhelmed when a relationship is becoming more deeper, more full of commitment, more romantic. And so that's the barrier that we're talking about. And so who's the person who can bypass that? So where the avoidant does not feel suffocated any longer. They don't feel engulfed. They actually feel more like they want to remain in this relationship. Who is that person? It is a person who can love and trust the process without needing constant, I'm not saying none at all, I'm just saying needing constant validation or needing to spend continuous time together. Why does this bypass the avoidance barrier? The reason it does is because it allows the avoidant individual to feel that relationships are not suffocating. They're not going to take away the thing that they care about. It's not going to take away their autonomy, their fear, and they don't feel like relationships are going to take them over, that who they are is going to be thrown away, right? They actually feel that this person, whoever their person that they love, the person who can bypass that fear, is able to be patient with them, but also that they don't need that continuous proof that the relationship is whatever they want it to be, right? And so that in of itself, that feeling can be suffocating and engulfing for avoidance, where they feel like they need to always show up or perform in a certain way. They feel like they need to be very performative, but this person doesn't require that, at least not often. And so it kind of bypasses their fear. And eventually, as they get close to this person, they start realizing if every now and again that person needs this, maybe more validation than usual, some periods of time, or they need more time together this very moment, it is fluid. And they already have that trust built in with this person because this person overall is not like that, okay? The next barrier is the loss of independence. Avoidant individuals are afraid to lose their independence. They're uncomfortable with it. They would not ever ideally be in a situation where they would lose this. And so if they believe that relationships are always going to take away their independence, they will avoid relationships, of course. But a lot of avoidants do get married. They do fall in love. So then who is that person that bypasses this? It's usually the person that's actually able to also be independent while introducing closeness at a slower pace. I'm not saying that they don't introduce closeness at all. That's not healthy either. We want interdependence. So what happens is they show the avoidant you can still be independent while still being in a relationship. You get both. No one is sacrificing anything. And it'll teach the avoidant individual that relationships are not always about taking away from what they have, right? So a common example of where these types of relationships, these fears can come from is, let's flip it. Let's say an anxious person, one of their biggest fears is being with somebody who isn't able to verbalize that they love them, or maybe they're doubting their own feelings. That can be something that's very triggering for an anxious person. But at the same time, they tend to attract avoidant individuals because they feel somewhere deep inside that that's what relationships are. And so they see that. Avoidant individuals are very similar because they believe that relationships tend to be a lack of independence. They believe if anyone is being too much or they're not able to set that boundary, they believe, okay, this is what relationships are, so it's normal. A person who's secure, if they're feeling a loss of independence, they will put that boundary, but they also realize that that's not healthy But avoidance, they're insecurely attached. They don't know that necessarily. So when a person is able to show them both, usually avoidants get very attached. They fall very deeply in love with that person because it's a concept they never even thought existed, right? Similarly, if you have an anxious attached individual and you can clearly say, hey, I do care for you. I'm not there at that point yet, but I do care. Or I don't fall in love as quickly as you might think, but I'm feeling very safe with you. And I do feel like me falling in love with you is in our future, right? If you say that, they're going to feel much more common. Anxious individuals feel very appreciated with that, right? So it's the same thing. The next one is the third barrier, is avoidants tend to push people away, right? This is what they do because they believe they are flawed. They believe they are flawed, not the other person. They believe they are flawed. So what is that person who bypasses this barrier? It is a partner who supports them emotionally without criticizing them or belittling them, especially about their attachment issues, right? They don't say, oh, you're an avoidant, that's why you're X, Y, and Z, or you're crazy, or you don't care, or you're selfish. They don't say those things. It's a person who supports them. It doesn't mean you support everything and you push everything away for them. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that you can still appreciate them and talk to them like they deserve respect, regardless of their attachment issues or their fears. You still respect them, okay? The next one is the fourth barrier, is they have triggers around potential manipulation, okay? I'm not saying you are manipulating them, but potential manipulation. And so the bypass, the person who bypasses, or the specific person who is able to show the avoidant individual that potential manipulation is not always the case in relationships, is somebody who helps them feel safe around those triggering moments. They can show understanding and level-headedness, okay? Level-headedness, relaxed, rather than react negatively or just overreactive in general. They can clarify intention if needed instead of taking it personally. If the avoidant individual says, hey, are you trying to manipulate me? Like, why do you keep sending me these videos? I don't want to do what you want. You're trying to change me. You're trying to control me. You can say, okay, I hear that you think it sounds like that. I'm just showing you something that I think is interesting. When I send you a video, it doesn't mean I'm trying to make you into that. I'm just showing you what I'm looking at. Or I just thought it was funny, or whatever is happening, right? You clarify instead of take it personally, okay? The next barrier is it's that they feel that they will waste their time and resources if they pick the wrong person, or if they feel like that person won't add value to them, so they keep people at an arm's length. I hope that made sense. So basically, avoidants tend to keep people at an arm's length because they feel like until I can really vet this person out, I could be wasting my life with them. And I don't want to waste all my resources to this person. And so how do you bypass that? Who's that specific person that they are fine with giving their resources to, right? It's usually a person that adds and enhances the avoidance life, such as providing emotional stability and companionship without making them feel overwhelmed. They're patient. They are appreciative. They call their partner out in a healthy, respectful way when needed. And so they are showing the avoidant that there are things that I can add to you. I'm giving you my resources. You're giving me yours. It's an exchange, okay? The next one is avoidants tend to, so this is the next barrier, they tend to prioritize their hobbies over a person. So they avoid prioritizing somebody over anything in their life typically. So who is the person who bypasses this? Interesting enough, it's somebody who actually encourages that person to pursue their hobbies. And so what ends up happening is the avoidant individual feels like their hobbies don't have to compete with their person. They're living in the same space. Their partner is saying, I encourage you to do those hobbies. So now it's like a sweet thing, right? It's romantic because they feel like I'm doing my hobbies, but you're also encouraging me. So like two things are happening at once. And sometimes it allows them to want to do those hobbies with you. So now there's no fighting. There's no competing with the hobby versus the person. So that's the person who bypasses that, okay? The sixth barrier is when they're feeling overwhelmed, I guess it's more like either person feeling overwhelmed. They don't want a person to heavily rely on them in fear that they will fail that person. So if they're feeling overwhelmed, they shut down. You see that a lot, right? If you're feeling overwhelmed, they also shut down. And so that's the barrier they put in, because not on purpose, but it's because they are afraid that if they fail you, whatever you need, even if you're heavily relying on them or not, they just feel that they're going to fail you. And so they avoid anyone who relies on them at all, and they avoid relying on anybody because they don't like that failure feeling. And so what ends up happening is the person who bypasses this, or somebody where the avoidant can be there for them or be reliable or reliant, is somebody who thinks for themselves every now and again, not all the time, without needing frequent approval. It means that somebody is able to be independent emotionally while still slowly allowing both individuals to have some emotional exchange during these difficult times. So if somebody's becoming overwhelmed, they can mention, I notice that you're feeling overwhelmed. Do you want me to step back from this conversation? Or do you want us to talk for maybe 5-10 minutes and then take a break from it? Right? So you're allowing this space to be, it's okay to be a little flexible. It's also okay that some people that you either one can regulate separately, okay? The next one is that the avoidant individual, the seventh barrier, is that they feel that they're not good enough to have relationships. Like they don't think they're good at relationships. They might think they're great at earning money, but they just don't think they're good at relationships. So who's that person who bypasses this? Somebody who acknowledges their efforts. Very simple. Simple, I guess. Maybe not as simple in practice, but simple when you say it out loud, okay? And so those are some of the barriers that comes up when an avoidant is feeling like they're falling in love. And we also mentioned that specific person who can bypass each one of them. And so if there are some areas where you feel that you are getting closer to them in one area, but you're not getting closer to them in the other area, this video might help you to know which ones that you're struggling with so that you guys can both adjust together, okay? Hope this video was helpful. Please like, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.